Welcome back. So I just received a package in the mail. It looks like one of my previous customers has sent us a puzzle. And we're going to see if we can put Humpty-Dumpty back together again. This is actually a complete stereo for an NB Miata. And he took it apart because the cassette deck belt, well, it's no longer any good. And if I hold this pulley stationary, it takes nothing to turn this one, which tells me that it's just no bueno. This deck was built by Panasonic and should take the same belt that the other Panasonics use. I think I have a very similar belt that we can try. There's one curveball though. There are no screws. He lost all the screws. So we have to fish through the parts bin to see what we can come up with. That is not the right belt for this. It's a wee bit too big. Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on. Actually, it might be okay. I think it slipped off the pulley. Let's try that again. The belt in my hand is for a Panasonic. The more common. No, that's not going to do her. I don't have a good belt, but what I can do is I should be able to. Wait a minute, that was actually in the wrong file. Let me see if I actually have one. I might actually have one. I've got the 1.2 by 6. I'm sorry, that's a different one. I got the 8.6. Okay, we're going to use an 8.6 inch belt, which is, I think this is the this is the Pioneer belt. Let's see if this one fits. Let's give it a try. No, that's too big too. Is it though? Well, you know what? That'll work. See, look, now it takes actual effort. Okay. I don't know what year this car is, or this stereo is from. No idea. I've never had one in my shop before. But that cassette deck looks to be in pretty good shape, but we're going to go ahead and clean the heads. And you can tell it's a Panasonic because it has the exact same drive for the load-unload mechanism. It's a very. I'm going to pull one aside here. I think I have one that's ready to be installed in a unit, and we'll do a quick comparison of side by side. I had it filed away somewhere in a safe place. Bear with me on this. What do I do with it? Let's take a look in the parts pile. Oh, there it is. Okay, so right here, let's take a look at these side by side. I've got a Panasonic NA Miata cassette deck right here. Let's see how they've changed over the generations. How much has stayed the same. So this belt is no good. Although it's in pretty good shape, I could probably save this belt by just rejuvenating it, but I'm not going to. Let's do a side by side here. So it looks like, for the most part, it's the same deck. This is from like a 1989 to 96, 97 maybe, 97. And this is from 97 to all the way into the NB generation. And they are strikingly similar. If you look at the bottom underneath here, they're both in the same orientation. they have stopped using the metal plate over here. I know these pulleys look different. If I were to take this cover off, you would see they look a little bit different. It looks like they removed the plate, which actually hides two bearings that these pulleys ride atop of. And on this newer version, they've added circlips to hold the pulleys in place. On this generation, they'll just slide right out if I take this cover off. So what I'm seeing here is a lot of cost cutting, but not in a bad way. It actually kind of makes sense. But for the most part, they're the same mechanism, and a lot of parts should be interchangeable between the two. Like, for example, this gear train right here. So that tells me I can expand my cassette deck repair options to the NBs as well. Which no one's ever taken me up on that. I've never actually been asked. But it just kind of proves a point that I can offer my services to the NB. What I want to do is I'm going to actually try to put this stereo back together again and make it work. And then we're going to see what it would take to do a Bluetooth mod. This is kind of cool. The gentleman who sent this to me, I don't know what he wants me to do with it, if he wants it back or not. But it was Mr. Connor. I'll go by Mr. Connor. So if you see, I did a video where I overhauled he had a Pioneer, and we overhauled his Pioneer and made it work again. So before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and clean the heads. Look at that. That's just on the head. That is bad. This thing is really nasty. So we clean the heads. We're going to clean the cap stands. And we have already changed out the belt. If Mr. Connor doesn't want this stereo back, I may offer this one for sale on eBay once I get it all fixed up. It is missing a few things. It's missing the... let me go ahead and show you the faceplate before we dive in too deep. And I'll show you what this one looks like. But this is from like an early NB. I don't really know the NBs very well. I focus my attention on the NAs. But that was the Miata made from, again, 1990. They didn't have a year. I think it was 97. They skipped a year. And they went from 98 on up to like 2003 or so. Fun fact, I once owned a Mazda 626. I had a 97 Mazda 626, and it actually had a very similar stereo to this when I bought the car. I bought the car in 2002, so the car was like less than 5 years old, so it was still a relevant vehicle. It was not an old car when I bought it. It was only a couple years old. But it actually had a variant of this stereo in the dashboard when I bought it. And I replaced it with a factory Panasonic CD player very shortly after I bought the car. I went on eBay and I found one, which is the same, by the way, the same CD player that was offered in the Miata. So would have been if I had that car to this day, this stereo would definitely fit in that dashboard. So, all right, let's take a look at the faceplate. So this is the faceplate for this particular stereo. And it has interestingly, looks like that might be broken. No, there's just a light behind it. It has an AUX auxiliary button here that's designed a little differently than the rest of these buttons. That's kind of interesting. You know what I think happened? I think there's supposed to be some plastic inside here that fell out, which is quite interesting. That's really interesting. And it's completely missing. The cassette door is a little bit bent up, and the spring is no longer doing it any favors. So we're going to have to fix that too. Yeah, it looks like somebody took this apart and just kind of messed with it a little bit. So we should be able to straighten some of that right out. So we're going to start by bending this back, and we're going to bend this back around where it's supposed to be. I'll just put my pliers on like that. Go like this. Yeah, like that. But this stereo would fit most late 90s Mazda products. Early 2000s perhaps, maybe even a Protege or so, because they were the Protege was, I think it shared a lot of parts with the Miata too, so yeah, we'll get this fixed up pretty good. We don't even know if this thing works at this point. We don't know anything about it. I was only given very little information about its history from the owner, the gentleman who sent it to me. The faceplate ear is busted off here. Okay, looks like, yeah, somebody's been in here. So interesting. Well, where do we start? We'll put this back, put this aside. I'm going to start off by kind of assembling everything as best I can. I think I have most of the chassis here. I don't think anything's missing. I think it's all here. Oh, maybe it's still in the box. I get the feeling that there's something missing. Besides the obvious, the screws and everything, you know. No, I don't think he sent me all the parts. I'll have to check the porch. Maybe some of the stuff is on the porch. So what do we got here? This is probably going to be the front portion of the chassis. Oh, one way you know this is an NB is because it has on the sides here, you've got these springy thingies. Well, those are the U-hook clips. Excuse me. So let's see if we can't figure this out. Excuse me. Let's go like that. Okay, let's take out the parts bin. I got some miscellaneous screws for a Panasonic. So we're gonna dig through this pile right here. Doesn't really matter what we use. Can we put Humpty-Dumpty together again? This and more. Coming right your way. I think we can. My dad was, when I was a kid, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and my dad noticed that I have a knack for taking things apart and putting them back together again. And he took an old weed whacker, an old McCulloch weed whacker, the hell they call those? Not Eager Beaver, but McCulloch. Yeah, an Eager Beaver. That was the brand, the Eager Beaver. And he took it completely apart, like everything, completely disassembled the entire thing. And he handed me a giant plastic bag of parts. And he says, "Son, you can have this if you can put it together again." And I says, "Okay, challenge accepted." And he went to, it was in a summer, it was like a summer day, and I had the thing back together by noon that day, or the next day. And it was actually running. When he came home from work that day, I handed him a running weed whacker and said, put it together doesn't mean I get to keep it. I was probably 9. Yeah, I think I was 9. What I'm looking for, there should be a cross brace here. And this is going to go probably somewhere midway to support the cassette deck. What I don't know, I'm looking at this board and I don't see any mounting screws that correspond to these holes here. And you got these two threaded mounting points here, but the amplifier board goes in the back. See, notice how the amplifier and power board is a little bit more condensed compared to the earlier version of this. Yeah, it's a much more condensed design than what you would see. Oh, I get it. I wonder if there's something missing here. There's got to be something missing. Where does this connect? In theory, it should connect with like a ribbon cable. This is the back. But these screw holes match up like this. Oh. Interesting. First of all, we need to figure out where the faceplate goes. So the faceplate clearly goes like this. Just like that. But then you've got these, again, you got these threaded holes that, no, not that. No. I think there's something missing. Do these line up with, yes, they don't. Okay, there we go. I figured that out. Okay. Mystery resolved. Mystery solved. I got it. Okay. So this board is going to sit in like this. And yeah, I got it. Okay. That goes kind of like that. And then we got to shoot 2 screws in to hold that together. Yeah, the cost cutting in this radio is intense compared to its predecessor. I'm not saying it's poorly made. I'm just saying it's much cheaper. Less parts. It's a less complex design. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's just you can definitely smell the cost cutting here. On my channel, we've taken apart about 3 or 4 Panasonics, and they've all been just a very elaborate, very beta design, if you will. And this thing is, well, it's cheap, really cheap. And I mean, that's just the natural progression of how they design electronics. I mean, that's just how it's supposed to be. Is it a better design? Well, let's see if it works, and then we'll judge its character after that. Is it a better design? I don't know. Time will tell. We will see. This slides on like that. It's pretty self-explanatory as to how it's made. And, you know, how it goes together. And there should be 2 plugs. There they go. That snapped in like that. And now we're going to find some suitable screwage to get the 2 side pieces in place. Mount them to the amplifier. I think I got something there. And then I'm going to take a good look at this thing and see what it would take to do a Bluetooth mod, if possible. I'm already not liking what I see, because the reason the Bluetooth mods are so easy to do and so yeah, the reason they're so easy to do on all the old stereos, that's too short, is because of the modular nature of the design. So those stereos come in multiple pieces. Every component is kind of a separate unit, and what we're doing is we're taking the highway of circuitry that's connecting these components together and just intercepting it. So, for example, on the Panasonics, the older Panasonics, there is a connector in the back, and that goes to a CD player. Well, what we're doing is we're kind of hijacking the signals and power going to and from the CD player, because it's just cut the loom open, or in this case, we're soldering on the board, on the CD player board, and that's how we're making it happen. Now, on the Pioneers, we're hijacking the tuner board, which is mounted in its own separate section, and it connects to the main board through a bundle of wires, and we're just intercepting those wires. That's how we're doing our Bluetooth mods. On these newer models, everything is either connected with ribbon cables, or we've got, in this case, the amplifier and the tuner and the preamp. It's all on one board. Well, the amplifier is a separate piece, but there's no bundle of wires to chop into. In this case, we have to identify where the audio left and right are coming out of somewhere, and then make our splices there. Well, the good thing is repairs should be pretty straightforward. In fact, I could offer a cassette deck repair program for these very cheaply. I wouldn't even have to charge. I would charge, a reasonable fee. I won't say what right now, but it wouldn't be terribly expensive because these are easy to work on. And then the faceplate snaps in. Yeah, predictable. Let's see if we can get that lined up. Oh, shit. I almost made a horrible mistake. So the screw, okay, I see what they did there. See, these screws are mashed. They're mashed potatoes because somebody tried to take this apart. I see what happened here. I see why these are all chowdered. Somebody tried to take it apart without loosening the screws first. They broke a clip off. There's a broken clip. And yeah, I see what happened there. Hold on. Well, here's the deal. I'm just gonna bend this back, and those screws are gonna have to come out with an extractor, unfortunately. But we can fix that. We have the technology. I'm just gonna take the screw completely out. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to repair, but that's okay. We can do that for you. Just take both of those out. So we're missing the covers that go here. So if somebody wanted to buy this but had a dead stereo, and let's say we fix this, I could be like, you know what, you get the stereo, but we don't have those covers. Unfortunately, they're gone. But yeah, he lost the screws and ended up sending me his Pioneer to repair, which I've done, and then he sends this to me. He said he would offer it to me as a favor, and I said, sure, why not? And I'll see what I can do with it. So that's what we're doing here. Putting Humpty-Dumpty back together again. Okay, so faceplate's back in. Let's get that cassette deck in place. I'm doing this backwards. The cassette deck actually technically goes on first. Oh! Here, let's get this faceplate back off for a minute. Yeah. I don't imagine the stereo is worth much. The NBs haven't quite hit the cult status that the NAs have hit, so there's not really a lot of people that are scrambling to fix their factory stereos for the NBs. So I think these are a little bit less valuable, but they are a cool novelty either way. These will fit the NAs. It's the same wiring, same harness and everything. So if you've got an NA and you find yourself an NB stereo, now the only problem is you're not going to be able to use the factory NA mounts. You're going to have to come up with something different because these mounts will not work on an NA dash. All right. Okay. So there are mounting screws on the front and the rear. This plate is going to have to go in the rear. I bet you it mounts to the cassette deck body itself. Question is where and how. It's going to hang like this, probably like this. Yeah, baby. So this is going to go in the back like that. There we go. Yeah, that's how she goes. Just like that. Do I have screws small enough? I think so. I think I do. I told you we'd get her done. I told you. I told you, man. We'd get her done. Find another one of those. The key to success in repairing anything, no matter what you repair, no matter what you work on, no matter what you specialize in, the key to success, and I learned this from my father, who's a brilliant man, is to never throw a single screw away in your career. Everything you take apart, whether it's being scrapped or repaired, if at the end of the day you have extra screws, put them in a bin. Put them in a bin. And the longer you've been doing that profession, the more equipment you've worked on, the bigger the bin becomes, the more screws you have. And when you need to, when you're working on something and you're missing a screw, you know you've got one in that bin somewhere. My father has he has a little a chest of drawers in his garage. It contains the culmination of over 40 years worth of screws and hardware, nuts and bolts, fasteners of every kind. You name it, it's in that drawer somewhere, in one of those drawers. And let me tell you, that chest of drawers has saved both of our asses so many times over the years, I can't even tell you. Growing up, I just relied. I knew no matter what I was doing, if I needed a bolt, a screw, a washer, anything, it was in that chest of drawers. And you know something? It actually has pretty much rang true no matter what. What is my cat doing? Oh, that's the sprinkler. I can't quite get this plug in. It's really tight. It doesn't want to go in there. Do not ever throw any bolt, any nut, any screw. And Red Green made a joke about this in one of his skits on the Red Green show. You know, something about aging and coffee cans full of rusty screws. And I first heard that joke when I was a kid, when I was watching that show as a child, but it's true. It is so true. And the older you are, the bigger that can of rusty screws and nails gets. The more stuff is in there. Anyway, let's try to get this deck aligned here. There we go. I think that'll do. It's in the right position. Plug this in. Cost cutting at its finest, my friends. This is from like 90, 97, 98 plus. And after, yeah, that's when they really started to cut costs. But you look at how fewer parts and how simpler this design is, and how more compact it is, and how much lighter this thing is compared to its predecessors. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. I can tell you that I may not have enough screws to completely assemble this because I haven't worked on enough of these radios. But it's nice that they didn't change the thread pitch at all on any of these. They're all the same. Okay, let's get that. I only put one screw in the cassette deck for now, but I'll probably put another one in later. Oh, what the heck? Let's see if we have one. No, I don't. I've used up all I got. That's okay. No, it really is okay. So we'll just put this faceplate on. I'm gonna fix this door. I just want to see this thing actually play again. All right, now there's two words on this that you can't read because you can't see the door anymore, but the two words are anti-theft, and that makes me nervous. That makes me super nervous because it tells me that this thing isn't going to work. It's probably got a code programmed in it. Now, we have the code, the instructions for wiping the codes out of the older models, but we don't have them for this one, and I'm sure it's different. Where am I going to put this ground screw? Right there. That's where we're going to put it. And just kind of thread that in. And we're going to see if this baby works. The label on this indicates it's made by Matsushita. Does not mention a year of manufacture, which is surprising actually. No year of manufacture. 12 volt, 4 ohm, grounded case, patent numbers. Okay. Let's see what we got. That's actually a pretty good sign. Let's turn it on. We get no lights, no lighting at all. Got volume. Okay, that's lights on, off, on. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, the lights are out. Nobody's home. But it's not locked out. That's good. That's what it sounds like. I'm not even going to bother censoring that because I don't think it's going to get picked up. That's a new one. No, there's something wrong there. Very wrong. So we have no lighting, so we've got all the lights are burned out. And
Things are down as it is. I'm not on the evidence team.
Something with speed control,
You'll
maybe?
have to ask the lieutenant in charge when they've got what they need. I poked into a neighboring cubicle. It contained a large, white, dentist chair.
Interesting.
And a tray covered with crimson pots and bottles.
Interesting.
Oh, I looked into a tiny closet where common
So, what do we think is wrong with it now?
and a few coat hangers. Finally, she burst out. Didn't your people get a nice desk yesterday? Don't you read your own report?
What do we think is wrong with you?
Or my own impressions, Miss Carlson.
Does it in both directions.
Take your time. If not, the shock of reality might do it. Our world has more twists than any screenplay. Villains turn out to be just guys trying to get along.
Dolby.
Bad girls are just good girls.
So let's talk about this thing for a minute. So aside from this, which I think we can fix that once we dig into that, I have theories. We can explore those in a moment, in another video, another time. But I want to talk about this unit by itself. So this thing has, number one, so this is your disk control. I don't know if this connected to a factory disk changer or not, but there is a connector in the back. That may be a good point to, a good place to look for the pinouts to see what it would take to jump a Bluetooth module into this guy. I may or may not do this, by the way, so just bear with me. So we may or may not end up at some point adding Bluetooth to this, but I do want to figure out why the cassette player is acting so weird. But this was designed to connect to an auxiliary CD player. It may have been a single slot loader mounted above it like the predecessor. It could have also been a trunk mounted CD changer. I'll have to look at the option list for the NB Miata to see what options they had. I also see an aux adapter here. See, it says no CD. Okay, so this tells me that it's looking for a CD player when I press that. And this is your disc select. As far as I know, doesn't do anything now. When I press aux, it says no CD. There's no CD changer hooked up to it. All very interesting stuff. What else? It has some nice, digital bass and treble controls like your modern stereos have today. So all the predecessors to this had a separate knob to control treble and bass. That's just how they used to do it. Younger folks may have never seen a stereo that doesn't have this feature, but this was the first one for Mazda. This is the first stereo I believe Mazda offered with digital volume and treble and fade and all the audio controls are under this audio menu. It does still have Dolby noise reduction, an automatic program skip. If I press this button, I hit APC. This is just like the stereo that was in my 97 Mazda 626. It's basically a different model from Panasonic, but it is essentially the same basic radio. As a matter of fact, my Mazda's original stereo, my 626's original stereo, it had, I believe it had a multifunction knob that would control, I'm trying to remember, it had a knob that would control, it was like a little knob right about here, and that would control your bass, treble, balance, and everything like that. So let's go ahead and finish the job. We haven't finished the job yet. We're gonna just eject this tape, and we're gonna go ahead and button it up. And then we're going to put it aside, and I'll just work on it some other time, At least I got it together. I know, basically, that it is a good working stereo. It does still need some work. The lighting is out in the faceplate. But for the most part, it's all there. It does work. That's half the battle right there. This is all bent as shit. Let's bend it back. And thank you to was it Mr. Connor or Mr. Neal? It was Mr. Connor. I worked on one from another guy who had the last name of Neal, so right around the same time, so I got them all mixed up. Mr. Connor, your stereo works. Does need a little more work. Let me know what you want to do with this thing, and I know he's probably watching this video, so let me know what you want to do with this thing, and we'll go from there. If you want it back, if you want to try to put it in your car, I don't think I would do that. Now, this belongs in an NB. and he had an NA. So, let's see. But yeah, all my life, I have been working on things, repairing things, and just taking stuff apart. Since I was about 4 years old, I started taking my toys apart with makeshift tools. I would watch my dad take something apart. He was a mechanic, by the way. And usually I'd watch him take something apart, and then I'd go find tools that he laid around or forgot to put away, and I'd go take some of my own stuff apart. Got in a lot of trouble, but then my parents realized that, oh, wait a minute, he's actually kind of good at this. Maybe we should do something with that, you know. My mom tells me this story that I remember my childhood all the way back to about 6 months of age. No joke, I do, and I thought this was normal. I didn't think it was an unusual thing. But I remember crawling and drinking from a bottle. Not many people remember that, I guess. I thought it was normal. But there's one event, I do not remember doing this, but I was at the babysitter's house, and she had kids, and they had battery-powered toys, and there was a battery-powered car, like a little remote-controlled car, and it was broken. And then I started messing with it, and I actually fixed it. Something to do with the battery contacts, I guess. And I knew instinctively how to do that when I was just 2 years old. And I don't remember that, which is surprising because I remember everything else, but not that. Strange. But, no, give me a bag of parts and I'll... But I'm not an engineer. No, I could not engineer myself out of a funhouse. But I can take things apart and put them back together again. Maybe at some point in the past life I worked on an assembly line, who knows. But that's just what I do. And you know what? For those of you who are like me, or younger and not really sure if they can make a career doing repairs, trust me, there's money in it. Oh boy, there is money in it. Not a lot, you're not going to die rich, but there's money in repairs. Especially now, people are broke as ever. And their stuff still breaks and still needs to be fixed. I don't have screws long enough for this cover, apparently, but yeah, they're not long enough. I need longer screws. But for the most part, we got this thing together and up and running. Now we know that it needs additional work. And you know what I'll probably do? I'll probably hang on to this one. I'm not gonna sell this. I'm gonna hang on to this as maybe a project for another time. But if somebody sends me one of these that needs parts, needs repairs, and I'll have all the parts to fix whatever they send me. This has a lot of good parts on it. The amplifier board is fine. It sounds like the main board is fine. The tuner works. The cassette deck does work, but it's got a little bit of a speed control problem. We'll have to look into that. Faceplate is perfect. The aux button is damaged, but it's a good parts unit for faceplate parts. Needs some lighting replacement, but for the most part, this thing is gold. And yeah, it's a good find. Well, thank you, Mr. Connor, for sending this over. And let me know if you want to do something with this. I don't recall what your intentions were with this unit, but this will not fit in the dash of your NA. It will plug into the harness, but you'll have to makeshift your own mounting system because the NA requires dedicated brackets that are screwed into position. The NB took over with the NB is the one that had the U-hook. If you don't know what U-hooks are, because I don't think they're used anymore, but it was literally a U-shaped hook that would go into these holes right here, and then you squeeze them. You would squeeze them outward. So you put one on each side and you pull them apart. and then you would take, so you go like this. I used to have a set of these. So you just stick them in there and you pull them apart and the whole stereo comes out that way. It's actually a pretty brilliant design, and it was universal. It wasn't just Mazda or just Toyota, but I know most of the Japanese automakers used these, or they adopted that design. And it was supposed to be the wave of the future to standardize stereo mounting systems. Well, that didn't really last very long. Because as the 2000s wore on, automakers began to integrate their stereos into the dashboards in a way that made them irreplaceable. I own such a vehicle, the current generation Mazda CX-5 and the one before it, actually the entire line, has a design where the stereo is part of the vehicle. You cannot replace it. You can replace it for repair purposes, but you cannot upgrade it. It is not doable. It is not an option for you, or me, or anyone. Thank you, auto industry, for being so fucking wonderful. If I want to upgrade the stereo in my CX-5, which I actually kind of want to do, because the factory stereo is not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. There were or are better aftermarket choices. Anyway, long story short, can't be done. Back in the day, you just grab yourself a set of U-hooks, stick them in there, pull the thing out of the dash, and put in your Sony Explode, or your Alpine, or your Blaupunkt, if you were of the German stereo fan club, you know what I'm saying? Back when Blaupunkt meant something. Now it's just a subsidiary of freaking God knows what. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, keep on trucking. I gotta close these videos with something, right? We'll put that in the parts bin, and where are we gonna put it? I need a bigger office, or less computers. Which one do you think I'm gonna get first? Where are we gonna? I got my chassis pile over here. I'll just stick it over here. So anyway, let's talk for a moment about future plans for this space. I've talked about it in other videos, mostly live feeds, but I would like to do something with this space. Let's walk and talk. Okay. So this is our basement, right? It's a pretty good sized basement, 1,040 square feet. This is all my girlfriend's stuff. Someday she'll be more than that, but this is my girlfriend's stuff over here. This is my stuff over here. Now, when I bought this house, it had this room already built, actually, no, it didn't have drywall on the exterior walls here. I did that myself. My coworker actually was moving, and he had piles of unused drywall, and he's like, "Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yep." So I drywalled all this. This is my first, maybe my second or third drywall project, and I think it came out pretty goddamn good. You can't see any of the seams. It is very smooth, and it came out actually really good. I'm really happy with how it came out. Nevertheless, this room was not built properly. They did not use the correct materials. They didn't use the correct drywall. You're supposed to use moisture and mold resistant drywall, but they used regular drywall. You're supposed to use pressure treated nailer plates when you're going onto a concrete floor, especially one that does not have a vapor barrier under it. You're supposed to put studs 16 inches on center. You know, the list goes on, and they did none of those things. They did none of those things correctly. So what I want to do is I want to come in here and just bulldoze it. I'm going to take the entire room apart. We're going to take the framing out. We're going to take the nailer plates out. Everything. It'll be like it was never here before. Everything comes out, wiring and all. We're going to rebuild the entire room correctly, we're going to put insulating foam on the walls, on the concrete walls. Before that, we're going to put some vapor lock or moisture lock paint on the walls, like you're supposed to do. This is dry lock, UGL dry lock. And what that does is it helps to take the porous the porous concrete, and fill in the pores with silica sand and latex paint, and it seals it so that moisture can't come through. We're going to put pressure treated nailer plates down. We're going to reframe everything 16 on center. We're going to build and frame out a bathroom here, a half bath, just a toilet and a sink right here in this section. This will remain the laundry section. We're going to do all this work, and we're going to build a room here for my girlfriend, Amelia. We're going to build her a nice room here so she can have her little craft room, her little hobby room. You know, it's going to be great. We're going to do it all at the same time. Wiring. This is going to get, you know, maybe 1 or 2 15-amp circuits. I think just one should be fine. My side will be getting 2 20-amp circuits because I need that kind of power. I might actually put another 20-amp circuit. I might put in a couple of electric baseboard heaters, honestly. I'll put one in each room just so they're there. You know, maybe 20 amperes, something low power, nothing crazy. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And I'm not going to do that anytime soon because I got enough to do. But just, you know, future plans. And her room is going to be probably going to build hers out to here. So there'll be a door right here. And this will be hers. All of this, her space. She can do whatever the hell she wants with it. My room is going to stay the same size it is now, but I'm going to organize it a little bit differently. I'm going to have countertops built in all around the room. And then, you know, maybe half a countertop shelf above it all around the room. There'll be recessed can lights in the ceiling. This ceiling is coming down. All of this is coming out. And we'll be replacing that with a drop ceiling, perhaps. If I do another drywall ceiling, it'll have to be done with furring strips, like you're supposed to. This drywall is screwed directly to the floor joists. That is not the way it's done. The drywall should be screwed to furring strips. You know, you can't make this shit up. It has to be done a certain way, you know? And 16 on center. Come on, guys. But seriously, I need more power in this room because I can't solder anything and use the heater down there at the same time. It blows a breaker. I can't, you know, I can only run a couple machines at a time. You blow a breaker. I got a laser printer in here now for the business. That sucks up a lot of power too, you know. So I need more power in here. But the problem with that, and this is a big problem. Take a look at what we got for a panel. Sure, it's better than the original panel, but it doesn't help me any. This is a 100 amp panel that is completely full. So, what the hell? I need more panel. On another note, there's a possibility. I got 2 meters out there. I could potentially just have an electrician come in and put in another 100 amp panel right there. I'm going to have an electrician come by and just say, look, here's what I got. I need more capacity. I want an electric car charger in the garage. I want to be able to wire one in. I can't do that with this. I want to wire up the basement. I want to improve things here. Can I just put in another 100 amp panel? There's enough space here, I think, to do it. And that's just a 30 amp breaker for the water heater, which runs on its own. The water heater has its own meter, power meter. That was an old thing they did back in the 70s, where they would put the water heaters and any resistance heat appliance, like a heating system or baseboard heaters. They would have their own meters, and they were actually billed at a different rate. That's the reason for that. But they don't do that anymore. But I've already got the second meter. Why can't I just put another panel in? You know, this way I'm not replacing, this panel's got all new breakers. I actually replaced almost every one of these breakers because they were all the wrong reading. Some dumbass put 20 amp breakers on all these 15 amp circuits. And yeah, don't do that. That's mean. Don't do that. That's just not good. Don't do that. Anyway. So consequently, I had to buy about a dozen 20 amp, 15 amp breakers to rate them correctly. But anyway. So that's my tale of woe and some things I gotta consider. Got a lot of work ahead of me. But yeah, just run some new 20 amp lines. Hell, just do them all 20 amp. Just forget the 15 amp. Just do everything in 20 amp. You know, that way there's more than enough power to go around and everybody happy. So, anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching and have a great Labor Day weekend.